Coming up next on Colorado's First Responders, you've seen Stadium Medical paramedics at the Pepsi Center, Dick's Sporting Goods, and practically every other sporting venue in town. Maya Starks introduces us to the people of Stadium Medical.
There is a rise in the number of people who wish to become emergency medical technicians, as the employment of these specialized people is expected to grow by 23% by 2022. Currently, EMTs treat approximately 25 to 30 million patients per year. In 2011, there were more than 826,000 licensed and credentialed EMS personnel in the country. Welcome to Colorado's First Responders. I'm Maya Starks. At capacity, many sporting and entertainment facilities in and around Denver could be considered small cities. Add the fever pitch of a playoff game or a rock concert, and oh yes, a little alcohol too. The probability of someone somewhere needing medical attention is right around 100%. According to the American Police Beat, the average response time for an emergency call is 10 minutes. Tack on a few more for a high volume, high traffic area. In some cases, that may be a few minutes too many. On-site medical care is the answer to more efficient and effective emergency and health care at special events. Stadium Medical didn't invent the practice, but they're determined to perfect it. You've seen them, inconspicuous yet visibly engaged and ready for action at a moment's notice. Most nights it isn't a matter if something will go wrong, but when.
Most people want action in their jobs that they have. Mm-hmm. Your perfect night is nothing at all.
At all our venues, the perfect night is if we do nothing. And even venues realize that, because the thing is that means everyone is having a great time and no one's gotten hurt, no one's gotten injured. The perfect night is they'd like the medics to be sitting on their butts, looking bored.
On this night, Jonathan Lum is Stadium Medical's lead supervisor for a Colorado Mammoth game at downtown Denver's Pepsi Center. Neither he nor his crew will spend much time on their backsides. Everyone continuously roams.
What we found over time is that if the medics stay moving, they'll be closer to a call when it drops. If they stand and don't move, they're going to be the farthest away. It's Murphy's Law. We're just like a city. Something may happen, and we're here to respond and take care of those medical issues to get people hopefully back into the game so they can enjoy it and have a great time.
Effective efficiency with a concentration on courteous customer care. It's the Stadium Medical way. We spoke with Shannon Kelly, the Director of Event Risk Management and Safety, about the importance of Stadium Medical's presence at KSE venues like Pepsi Center.
We're so fortunate with them. They, from everything from frontline staff down to administration with scheduling and everything that has to do with the day-to-day stuff to their management, it's all about teamwork.
You're likely to hear a similar story from folks around town who work not only with, but in competition against Stadium Medical. For founder and owner Roger Ames, reputation is everything, and his was built from the ground up.
It's not rocket science. It really is about the people. All of them. Employees, us. It's about everything. It really is about the people.
With 8 employees, 2 used emergency vehicles, and a concept of exceptional customer care and good old-fashioned fun, Stadium Medical was born in 2000.
The business idea for this one came when I was working for another company, and they were downsizing out of the special events when I started this. The actual brainchild of this is someone else. And he said, would you like to give it a try? And I remember when I went home and told my wife we're going back in business for herself, and she looked at me like I was, I think, on drugs. My very first contract was the Denver Nuggets, and their trainer, Jim Gillen, who just retired last year, is a very close friend of mine. And I remember when we told him that what we were doing, and I said, I kind of a used ambulance, and he goes, I don't care what you're driving as long as you're driving it. And that was the first night. The second night was contract number 2, and that was the Colorado Avalanche. Contract number 3 was the Colorado Rapids, and then the National Western Complex and a place called Arapahoe Park Racetrack, and those were the first 5. And it was a little bit nervous. Now we had a payroll, and there was just 4 of us at the time. Now there's over 160 of us. What weighs on me more now is, and as my wife and I always talk about, we're kind of responsible for 160 families at this point. So yeah, we take that responsibility pretty heavily. But you know what? You've seen some of the crews, pretty cool. So yeah, it's been an adventure.
Adventure is an accurate description of everyday life at Stadium Medical. From tummy aches all the way to drug overdoses and heart attacks, they've seen and treated it all. When we come back on Colorado's First Responders, we will tour Stadium Medical's downtown facility and see this dedicated team of caregivers in action. Stay with us. Welcome back to Colorado's First Responders. We told you how Stadium Medical started with 2 ambulances back in 2000. But do you know the history of the ambulance? The earliest recorded ambulance dates back to 900 AD and predates any other emergency service. Hammock-based carts were constructed by the Anglo-Saxons to move people with psychiatric problems or leprosy in ancient times. The first record of ambulances being used for emergency services was the use by Queen Isabella of Spain in 1487. Ambulances would pick up the wounded on battlefields after a war was over. Roger Ames admits he wasn't much of a sports fan growing up. Ironically, it would be in the sporting arena where he would change the game. Stadium Medical works with nearly every major team in Colorado and several of the surrounding college and university squads as well. In August of 2005, in an NFL preseason matchup between Denver and San Francisco, 49ers offensive guard Thomas Herrion collapsed in the locker room and was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. It was this instance that prompted the league to require a paraprofessional to be steps away at all times. Roger Ames was the first paramedic to travel full-time with an NFL team, and he does so to this day. You mentioned traveling with the Denver Broncos. So Stadium Medical not only started off with just 5 contracts, but you ended up being a trailblazer of some sorts in this business by kind of changing the model to which teams function as far as emergency care goes. And I know you don't want to give yourself props on that, but do you take any credit for that?
Oh, I take some credit for it, yeah. I mean, I think it's more that we put ourselves in position to take advantage of opportunities when they happen. I mean, some people will tell you, well, we got lucky, and I don't think so. I think we made our luck. We got told the other day that you guys are an overnight success, and I went, well, 15 years is overnight, then okay, I'm good with that, but we just try to make it better for everybody who's around us. Specifically, the Nuggets and the Avs really helped me create what we have today. And then the next year, we picked up the Denver Broncos, and it was just the same way. I became the first paramedic to travel. We became the first paramedics to really work with the teams and do the backboarding and just all that stuff. We become intimately part of the team. So when something bad happens, if it does happen, it just runs so smoothly.
We were able to see how Stadium Medical works on 3 different occasions. At a recent motocross event in Erie, we saw how the paramedics prepare for such an event. With ambulances and medical equipment on scene, they were ready to face everything.
Medic 4, I got one down. Can we get the mule over by Medic 4, please? Copy, en route.
Dealing with motocross is much different than dealing with situations at Pepsi Center. Between monitoring the people in this small city to the players in action, they too have to be ready for all kinds of scenarios. And we were able to witness the Stadium Medical crew in action firsthand, as a Pepsi Center worker fell ill and needed medical attention.
Slow your breathing down, hon.
Okay. Yeah, I just got really sweaty and hot and dizzy.
Okay, slow down. Go to the happy place. Remember Happy Gilmore? Go to your happy place, okay?
Do you know what happened? Do you know right?
Yes.
You know,
I was in my porthole, and somebody started talking to me, and I started getting really hot.
Okay.
And I could feel like I'm starting to sweat, and it was starting to run down my back. I didn't even sweat, and I just started getting dizzy.
Sure, slow that breathing out through your nose and out through your mouth. Right now your heart looks good. Your vitals are good, a little elevated, but understandable.
The worker was released to go home, and while this was a minor incident, Lum told us just how beneficial it is to know every worker at Pepsi Center, because you never know when relationships can save lives.
There was one night where one of the concession workers that was working in one of the suites had a patron in there and something didn't feel right to him, so he saw the medic that he knew, and he's like, hey, can you just come take a look at him real quick? I don't think he really wants to see you, but can you? And the guy goes, sure, well, I got anything better to do, and goes in and looks at him, didn't look right, took his pulse on both arms and realized he had something more than what you'd normally expect. Next, he's got an ambulance coming. They get him over to the hospital and had him in the cath lab 40 minutes later, and we get a call from the patient to our owner saying, my doctor told me I should call and find out who the paramedics were, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be making this call, because, it was that serious of an illness, and we were able to get to him faster because people noticing stuff and calling it out to us and pointing it out.
And those are the stories you always keep with you that
keep us going. Yeah.
You have to wonder how much of Stadium Medical's family-like atmosphere led to saving more lives because of their ability to create those friendships. Roger Ames took our crew on a tour of Stadium Medical, where what you think would be a high-stress environment is anything but. They consider it home, and everyone pitches in.
So, Roger, we're just growing and growing at this point as we head into another wing of Stadium Medical.
Another conference room. My favorite things. These are my favorite things, one of the top workplaces, and we just keep adding them. And that's about us. This is the reward we get because the employees vote on this. That's kind of cool to us. It's kind of cool to me. I find it rather important.
How much do you find that kind of the up-and-coming medical professionals are kind of clamoring to come work for you and Stadium Medical? I mean, because word gets around.
Yeah, we get a few that they think they're all going to come work events, and they do. But they get to see some pretty interesting stuff. I mean, how often do you get to stand on the sidelines of a football game or on the bench of a hockey game?
Each section of the building represents growth and improvement, but perhaps none as visually compelling as the garage. What started as 2 used ambulances has grown to a legitimate fleet.
Yeah, this is a whole lot more than 2 ambulances. In fact, I'm sure some of them are not even in here. Yes. My goodness, look at this fleet.
You can't park in here at night. We have outgrown the building already.
So these 2 are the newest in the fleet. How much did you pay just offhand for your first 2 ambulances?
My first 2 ambulances I paid $4,000 for, total.
For both of them?
Both of them.
Now, how much would one of these go for?
110.
110,000.
Empty. Once it's full, it's about 170.
Wow. So from 8 employees, 2 used ambulances, and 5 contracts, would you ever have imagined to be sitting where you are now?
No. I mean, this time last year, my wife and I were talking at home, and she goes, when are we going to stop growing? And I said, well, never. We are going to allow this company to go where it's going to go. A couple years ago, we went into an interview process with the Colorado Convention Center, which is a huge complex. And we were in competition with 4 other companies. And one of the guys from the other companies went to one of our other competitors, which was Denver Health, and told them they were going after the convention center. And they asked him, they said, so how are you going to do that? He goes, who are you going up? He goes, well, we're going up, the Goliath in the business, we're going up against Stadium Medical, so we don't stand a chance. I died laughing. When did I become a Goliath? But you know what? We do pretty good. The crews are freaking amazing. They work hard. It's really about them at this point.
When Roger Ames started Stadium Medical 15 years ago, he was told by 2 competitors there wasn't enough room in this town for 3 emergency special events providers. Turns out they were right, as only Stadium Medical is still standing and the model for emergency medical services done right. After all, they are the people the pros trust.